Getting to the money, I be getting to the back. People think I'm funny cause I always make them laugh. I ain't even being funny, I be really spitting facts. I'm about balance and I got talents. Every challenge I overcome. Low key is savage, never be average. Give me a task and I'll get it done. Minding my business whenever I come in. I'm hitting in business while I'm having fun. I ain't worried about winning, but that would be dumb cause there's no competition. I already won, huh? Yeah.
Peace, 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 family. How you all doing? I hope all is well with you. My name is Keisha. I'm the owner of Astrologiks, and I am your astrology coach. Today, I will be discussing the Taurus new moon happening on April 27th. And before we get into it, I wanted to show you where you can look in your chart of what this Taurus new moon will be activating. And so anytime we have a new moon, the moon and the sun are always conjunct. So you can see that happening right here. And we'll also have to look at Venus, because Venus is the ruler of Taurus, and Venus has been conjunct Saturn and the North Node really since March 1st. And plus we had the retrograde with the Venus retrograde. And so there's a lot happening here that we're kind of working through. And anytime we talk about the North Node, even though it really isn't connected to this transit at all, we always have to look at the South Node. And the South Node is about releasing and letting go. And because it's in the sign of Virgo, we're talking about your work environments, co-workers, really like anything to do with work, and your health routine, your daily routine, whatever that consists of. We're talking about doctor's appointments, health providers. This could also be like being of service to others and services in general. Having your own business and the pieces that kind of come with that. Hiring new people, firing people, letting people go. And also pets and the health of pets. Now, this new moon is also going to have a T-square. It's really a grand cross. It's going to square Mars and Leo. It's going to square Pluto and Aquarius. And it's going to oppose this Lilith and Scorpio here. I'm not going to hear many people talking about this, but a grand fixed cross. If you could see the cross in the middle, there's a lot going on here. And I won't be talking too much about Scorpio and Lilith, to be honest, but I do have a lot of videos on here, as you may well know. If you've been following me for a while, you can go check out my Scorpio and Lilith Black Moon video. You can get more information there. I also will not be discussing the T-square to the opposition between Mars and Leo and Pluto and Aquarius. In this particular video, I'm just going to be focusing on the Pisces energy with Venus, Saturn in the North Node and the new moon here. So, yeah, just so you guys know, I'll do a separate video for the Leo, the Mars and Pluto. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah. So let's jump right in to the details of this Taurus new moon happening at 7 degrees, again on April 27th. New moons are a time to manifest new goals and intentions. The signs that will feel this the most are Taurus and Libra, maybe even the fixed signs, especially with the Mars and Pluto being activated during this time. I feel like fixed signs are gonna be feeling this the most. But Taurus and Libra, because they're both ruled by Venus, and so it's even amplified by the 7 degrees, which is ruled by Libra. It's a Libra degree, and so this is talking about the 7th house, which is partnerships, relationships, contracts, agreements, marriage. This could also be counseling or any kind of legal things. Really in any Venusian ruled things, women really specifically, but clothing, style, hair, trinkets, like jewelry, desires, pleasure, possessions, really any kind of relationship. This doesn't have to just be about a marriage. It really does rule all relationships and our relationships to other things. And so when you incorporate the Taurus perspective of Venus, it's our relationship to food, to resources, to money, to luxury, our desire for those things. We're really going to be assessing needs and wants. Are we buying things or getting things because we want them, or are we doing them because we need them? Those are going to be some really important questions that are going to come up at this time. May even be some sacrifices needed to be taken for the longer goal, the bigger goal. And we'll talk more about that as we get into it. But this can indicate that we're receiving support from a woman, or we're receiving things or giving things that are going to balance us out. Now, Taurus is a fixed earth sign. It's ruled by Venus, and it lives in the 2nd house. Again, the 2nd house is pleasure, food, security, value, self-esteem, self-worth, luxury, physical things, physical items. Your 7 streams of income, or having multiple side hustles and a job. The money you make from a job. This could also be budgeting, saving, and the things that we invest in, like valuables, things that you say, for example, you have some vintage item that you didn't know you had, or you forgot you had, and you're out of money. I don't know. Let's just use a painting for an example. And you can go sell that eventually, if need be, to receive some kind of income. So it's definitely talking about investments here. From the Taurus perspective, it's more valuables of, again, physical items, luxury items, things that have value. Whereas on the opposite side, which is Scorpio, it's actual investments like investing in the stock market, um, and things of that nature. Um, Now, in Vedic astrology, the second house is known as your family lineage, family roots, things that we learn from tradition, our parents, our bloodline, um, and how that is an investment, right? The household, the family economics, um, and really understanding the power of that. And when you incorporate Saturn into this dynamic, which is about, lineage, legacy, what you're leaving for your children, what you're learning from your elders, um, being responsible, mature, um, reliable, some kind of public figure, um, or a boss, a CEO, again, owning your own business. Um, this could also be, um, some kind of, can indicate like some kind of change in your career, like uh, either you're retiring or you're going back to school to learn a new skill to start a whole new career type of thing. Um, which I found very interesting. Because on the world stage, when we look at these kind of themes that are ruled by Taurus, we're the fattest in the world. We have the highest divorce rates. There's been a spike in single parent homes, um, mental health issues, which we'll talk about with the Pisces energy. We're not doing so well with healing as opposed to medicating. Um, and we're not doing well in education in the public schools. And to add insult to injury, we're getting advice from a lot of, entertainers, Pisces energy, people that we deem as popular or um, that we idealize, Pisces energy, somebody that you ideal or look up to. Um, and they might not really be the best people to get advice from. Most of the issues they're talking about it from a trauma perspective and not a healed perspective. Things that they've experienced, which doesn't make them facts or truth or um, things of that nature, but they're relatable, and so it's easily for us to be sold into a narrative that might not be the best, but because we can relate to it, it's now become truth or our uh, philosophy or a new way that we're going to do things. And we can see the kind of crumbling of that ideology or perspective or, whatever. Um, so yeah. Um, and a lot of this stuff is genuinely happening because we just have a lack of money. We can't really afford an expert. A lack of knowledge and economics resources, lack of child rearing skills, um, a lack of knowledge on how to build legacy or the business of family. Um, we can take it a step further. And whenever we're talking about Pisces, we're also talking about Jupiter, which is the ancient ruler of Pisces, which is the ninth house in Sagittarius, where there's a lack of morals, ethics, um, and a way to live, um, a, a distorted worldview, a lack of culture, um, and there could even be perhaps like a need to look at other cultures and how they live in their country. I think a lot of the times when I mention money or when anybody really talks about money, it's like, oh, money's going to make everything better. Mm, but when you look at other countries that don't really have money, what they do have is culture. They have morals, they have ethics, a way to live, but they're rich in that, right? And so, um, wealth is not just, money. Wealth is, um, a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of understanding, um, a wealth of wisdom. Um, Currency comes in all different forms and shapes. It's not just about money. In fact, money isn't even the most important piece, which is why most of these countries tend to do a lot better in certain areas than we do because they have a wealth in those areas and they're not really letting anybody else come in and dictate that or take that from them, which brings us to a deeper level of how America kind of has stolen our soul or our spirit, um, through the way that they teach or lack of teaching us these types of things on a more foundational level so that we're building up and not crumbling, um, in other ways and areas in life due to the lack of that foundation. Um, and so there could be like a lot of assessing that, um, you know, and more conversations about the need to cultivate some of those things. So we can see a big push to solve these problems. This could be sitting down with family, having bigger conversations about how to come together and make these changes. Because this Taurus new moon is like, I don't want to feel bad about wanting a relationship, about wanting money, about wanting stability, about feeling secure, having self-worth and values, believing in myself. Um, you know, if we can find a way to work together to build better resources, spending habits, and security, this Taurus new moon would be very happy. And that's what it's kind of going to force us to do. But unfortunately, when we're learning or unlearning bad habits and behaviors, it really becomes, especially with Pisces, it can feel like a pressure, um, or super, super intense when it comes to making a lot of these changes or the need to make some of these changes because the fixed energy of Taurus is stuck in their ways. They really don't want to change, right? Then you have Pisces, Venus, Saturn in the North Node in Pisces, which is very mutable, and they want to make changes. They want to be more flexible, more understanding, and make room so that you can truly, receive the benefits of the change. And the North Node amplifies that desire to go towards something new, to do something different, right? And Saturn is going to be like, the teacher with the ruler beating us over the head, like learn from what you've been through. Haven't you had enough? Embrace new levels of compassion, self-love, soul lessons, spiritual growth. Um, but we got to go through the process. And so it can feel like Saturn can be very pessimistic. You can feel very dissatisfied with someone, something, patterns, money, creativity, all Piscean themes. Um, you can feel exhausted, depleted, and overwhelmed. But it's a turning point. We're going through some kind of death. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac before we hit all these Aries placements, before we really start waking up and making a lot of these changes. Plus, we're still in shadow retrograde shadow, where we're still learning what that what the retrogrades were trying to teach us. Why did we have to go through this several times? Didn't we already have this conversation? It could seem like deja vu, or you're just having like multitude of dreams and visions, aspirations, being inspired, losing the inspiration, not understanding a dream, forgetting the dream. Um, it could have just been like a lot of back and forth where you feel like it becomes very Libra, where we're very decisive. We know this feels good, but then we forget because we're so overwhelmed with dissatisfaction of the self, of who we are, that we let ourselves get to this point. We could be feeling like we're losing everything in life, like everything is just being stripped away from us. Um, there are no opportunities. It's hopeless. I want to give up. What's the point? Um, all these kind of defeatist attitude or thinking about this new level that we're trying to ascend to. But it's a natural process that we have to go through. We can't really avoid it. We have to feel it um, in order to make the change. It's a turning point, endings, transitions, moving away from things, closing out cycles. And then we're going to find peace with the endings and the consequences of our actions. Whenever I think of Pisces energy, this can seem super repetitive if you've been following me for a really long time. It's like, this is my AA. Pisces is my AA placement where it's like wanting to become sober. And so there's a loss of a desire to drink because it's harming me, right? And so what we're really understanding is why something is harming. The way to solve a problem is to start at the solution and then working your way backwards to figuring something out. So these retrogrades really, even though we might not really see it or feel that way, have been so helpful. It's almost like it brought us back to the past. It brought us back to the things that we didn't like. We could have felt like we were moving forward. We were seeing things clearly. We had ideas. We know where we want to go. We know what we don't want anymore. But those retrogrades was like, are you sure? You know? Are you really? And so it could have brought a lot of old issues that you thought you've overcome, old people that you thought you've let go of, old situations, patterns, addictions, all these kind of lower vibrational things to test us. Some people jumped on the bandwagon and said, fuck it, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna indulge in this negative behavior, this bad pattern, uh, because it makes me feel better. Um, and some people really got it. Some people were like, I'm not signing up for that no more. I'm not selling my soul. I'm not giving away my power. I'm not, you know, entertaining the BS anymore. I want change. And a lot of these things that have maybe perhaps been coming up could have really been like gut punches of reminders, like, I'm really done with this. It's really over for me. And so again, feeling dissatisfaction is going to be what drives the choices that we make once all these planets come out of retrograde shadow and we start moving more into the Aries energy. And that's really going to be the new year. I think we're going to see it more so when Saturn moves into Aries. Because it's necessary to evolve. You can feel bored with your work. If you're learning something, you can feel really bored around developing new skills. If you're in a relationship, there can be times when you feel less excited or the relationship just feels ordinary, very predictable, routine, and non-inspired. And it could lead to temptation. Again, drugs, relapsing. You might be, cheating or emotional cheating with Pisces, because I don't know. Pisces can be seen as cheaters. I'm pretty sure there are people out there who have some stories about Pisces. That's not what this video is about. But but if I had to choose the type of cheater Pisces was as opposed to physically cheating, I would say emotionally more so than the physical piece. Where you entertain a conversation with the person from the past for whatever reason. Um, uh, but again, I feel like again, people are either going to move forward with that and be like, I'm going for it. I'm gonna marry my side piece and make it work. Or they're gonna be reminded by something else that comes up that's like, I didn't, yeah, this is why we broke up the first time. These types of issues you could see happening. On the very same token, it could be that mundane pattern that you're stuck in where you're not having fun with your partner. You're not gazing into their eyes. There's a lack of romance. So, you don't dance together. You don't do stuff together. I mean, if we're looking at the opposite of Virgo, like, let's go work out, let's change our diet together, there could be a call to shake something up in some way, uh, to make it more alive again or feel committed again. Um, you might have to get a job that you don't like to sustain yourself. But it's going to be about planning for the future while you're at that job from the gate. Now 401k is a thing. What other resources and um, benefits do you get from your job? Finding ways around the taxes and all the extra additional stuff they charge you with, so you can get more money back throughout the year instead of waiting at the end of the year. Or, it could be just saving more, budgeting more, you know, really going through your budget and be like, I can't buy this, can't afford this, don't want this, don't need this. You're switching up something about how you're doing it this time. So maybe perhaps you only have to work for, like, let's just say 5 years to build up a financial income, but you're using that money to invest in other things that are going to give you more money. Um, that you could do more with so that you don't have to stay at that job. And I'm going to tell you, this is really important because Pluto in Aquarius, future, does not want to work. Aquarius jobs are more like seasonal, maybe every 3 months, maybe a certain quarter, or only it's the summertime, or um, you know, um, it's very off and on because it's ruled by Uranus, right? And so it's not a stable energy. Um, But in those free times, it's like you really get to raise your family, going back to the things that I was mentioning at the beginning of the video. You really get to build your legacy. You really get to teach your children the things that they're not learning in school, or put them in private school, or, just making better choices to build a stronger foundation for your legacy, for your family, for yourself financially, so that you can have more fun. Because another way this can show up is, no fun because I got responsibilities. Um, and, really questioning whether you want to commit to anything, honestly. But because we're talking about Venus, it's definitely probably a relationship. Seeking counsel. You can be telling yourself, I'm too old for a relationship. I'm too old to be changing jobs. Um, I'm not going to succeed, so why try? I feel like I said that already, but um, um, the relationship's gonna fail anyways. I'm not good enough. I don't have money. It's too much work. It's a burden. Or, on the flip side of that, you're gonna grow up. You're gonna mature. You're gonna stop crying. You're gonna stop the limited thinking. And you're gonna learn it's never too late to accomplish any goal. I often tend to look at uh, entertainers who became famous when they were like anywhere between 40 and after. I think that's Morgan Freeman. Um, who's the dude that plays Shaft? I don't know why I can't remember his name. He's always swearing. The bald guy, Samuel L. Jackson. I think even what's his name? Tyler Perry. I mean, they all didn't become famous until late 50s, 40s, 50s, maybe older. I don't really know. I just know they were older. Um, and so, finding inspiration in little things like that. Um, Learning to be vulnerable, um, um, learning to be supportive and receiving support and solving problems with solid solutions. This is a graduation. Some of the things Venus, whether we see it this way or not, can bring more positivity in our life is actually getting up, washing your ass, and dressing up. Go look nice. Doesn't have to be for any reason. You don't have to be going anywhere, but you could be dating yourself or you're actually on a date. Um, but it can induce positive energy. It might bring more opportunities. Doing your budget, figuring out your finances. I feel like I said that, but getting some kind of perfume, flowers, dancing, going to an art gallery, doing art, listening to music. I also think R&B is going to be coming back heavy, um, in a good way. Good old fashioned R&B music, but you could just be listening to music, um, or eating really good food. Taurus loves good food. Or these industries can tend to do well at this time. You might be getting a haircut, going clothes shopping, again, giving and receiving gifts. Also, divination, mediumship, occult, occult, occult stuff, metaphysics, magic, alchemy, spirituality. These particular fields can do really well at this time where you have a lot of people reaching out, asking questions, wanting more help. Um, yeah, so this is all I have for you, family. I hope you found this information helpful. I love and appreciate you. Peace.